Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me here today as we get to talk about one of my favorite subjects, comic books. My name is Jose. I love comic books. I love talking about them. I love sharing them with you. Feel free to follow me on social media if you would like. Links are in the description below. I've also posted a link to the Marvel fan site that I have plot synopsis and character bios for this issue. Marvel Superhero Secret Wars number 3 from 1984. People, this was my very first issue of Secret Wars. I was actually in Puerto Rico and got this at a supermarket or a Walgreens or somewhere. Back then, comic books were available just about anywhere, and I picked this up. I thought it was kind of cool looking. I had no idea what was going on. I read these, and because these issues kind of explain everything, this was my starting point. I actually had Secret Wars 3, 4, 5. I think I missed 6 and 7. I got 8 with the Spider-Man, and then that was it. Um, I didn't read the entire Secret Wars till much later when a trade paperback had come out years later, and my mom let me get it at that time. So in 1984, I was 10 years old, and I think what struck me is Cyclops, or sorry, Spider-Man here. I had no idea who the X-Men were, but I knew who Spider-Man was, and I thought this dude here looked pretty cool. I wondered who he was. I had no idea who the hell Wolverine was. So I did not follow the X-Men at this time. I started following the X-Men a few years later. I think in 1986 was when I started picking up X-Men. And then picked it up from then on. So, Tempest without Crisis Within. So, here we kind of get a brief of what's going on here. Jim Shooter is the writer of this. And so here we see that storm here. And we get a little exposition here. So, Jim Shooter, Michael Zeck, and John Beaty. So, Magneto says, wondrous, inspiring, but let the storm rage ever stronger, he says. He takes off his helmet here. I have a guest to attend. He uses his power. Now, real quick here, it's making it sound like, and here, like it's a mental power, but it's a physical one. And wouldn't he have to, like, use his hands or something? I don't think he can think it through, but whatevs. So, and again, some screen tones being used here on the helmet. I do like screen tones here and screen tones being here. So he's going through to release his prisoner, who happens to be the Wasp, and she kind of falls down here. This isn't our headquarters complex. I guess it's Magneto's lair, but it'll look maybe it'll look less foreboding at normal size. So she kind of makes herself back to normal. There was something I was gonna say. Oh, Magneto. I always think his name should be Magneto because it's magnet, but I don't know. Magneto's what's stuck, and everybody says Magneto, but wouldn't it be Magneto? So, anyway. And Wasp says, nope. Wonder why he turned me loose before I suffocated. I'll have to remember to ask him that when I find him. And I'm definitely going to find him. Yes, indeed, she says. And so she finally arrives. Good evening, Miss Van Dyne, or do you prefer to be called the Wasp? Do not bother trying to attack me, my dear. My person is magnetically shielded. So, you think I have to strike you directly to hurt you, monster? And he hits that thing. I can bring down this whole room down on top of you with my wasp eggs, Magneto. Hey, see, I said it. Would that inconvenience you? And he goes, "That would make us both quite uncomfortable. The weather outside is deadly. Since neither of us can leave here for quite some time, I suggest a truce. I want to talk. That's the reason I brought you here." And Wasp says, "You have a very obnoxious way of arranging a conversation, but all right, it's your nickel. Talk." And so he says, "First, I apologize for the suffering I caused you. You are obviously a woman of intelligence and understanding as well of great beauty, and I'm not the monster you believe I am, which is precisely what I want to discuss. Oh, my intelligence, understanding, and beauty of your non-monsterhood? Why, both," he says. So, it says here hundreds of miles away here, and you can see that the storm is just. And so we've got Ben Grimm, and if you remember in the last issue, he turned human for the first time in probably since the beginning of Fantastic Four. Johnny Storm, the Human Torch here, says, "Even as a thing, I doubt you'd last a minute outside of that." And Ben says, "Listen, Torchy, just give me some galoshes and a rain hat, and hey, Ben, look at that peak. Cripes, it's big enough to get its own zip code, and it's coming right for us. Ben, it's going to flatten this whole place. We don't have a chance." And here at the outside, Od's blood, meaning Odin's, um, "By the All-Father's grace, let the strength of Thor be now." So you can see here he's curling. I love Mike Zeck. He does not have a big body of work, unfortunately. So he throws the Mjolnir, let my aim be true, and he breaks that boulder into little boulders. You can see him smiling because he's just so happy and so excited about all this. This doesn't freak him out at all. And so you can see She-Hulk carrying this big thing here again. Screen tones being used here. "Put that dumb explosive arrow away, Hawkeye, as if it would have done any good against that Gibraltar-sized rock anyway." And Hawkeye says, "You'd be amazed at what this arrow can do, She-Hulk." "Huh? We're on another planet with more weird stuff per square inch than the Sunset Strip. And you think some trick arrow is going to amaze me?" And Hawkeye says, "What I think, Greenie, is that you're, forget it. All I can think about is my new bride. I miss her, you know. I don't want to be here. I want to be home." So he's talking about Mockingbird. Again, some screen tones. And they end up getting divorced, so. And this here is Rhodey as the Iron Man. It's not Tony Stark. I have a playlist of Iron Man, and I've covered some of the issues where Rhodey became Iron Man. Feel free to check them out. And so he's going through, and I love these roller skates. And then, of course, this is Monica Rambeau, and she was Captain Marvel during this time here. And again, so more screen tones here. And so this Hulk is smart. He has the intelligence of Bruce Banner. And Hulk says, "She-Hulk moved that 30-ton accelerator to the power plant, Cap. Once I install this modulator, all the damage done by Magneto will have been repaired." "Great, Hulk. How's your work going, Reed?" And he says a lot of stuff here, so he wished he had more time to study this place, and he's still basically keeping tabs on Galactus, who seems oblivious to the storm. He's also keeping a tab on the villains. So you can see here the storm, Galactus, and the villains here. So there, I saved us about 5 minutes of reading. Like Hawkeye, he wants to be with his son and his wife. During this time, Sue was pregnant, so they did not include her in the Secret Wars. So, and of course, we get that over here. So, I love the screen tones. So, all right, moving on here. Now, this Hulk is not Bruce Banner. He just happens to have Banner's intelligence because he's like, I wish you were home too, Richard, to spare us your maudlin whimpering. You don't think I miss my woman? It makes me want to crush the enemy that much more and get it over with. So, it's not a way I don't think Bruce Banner would speak. So, it's another one of Bruce's personalities here, because that's what the Hulk is. So, Cap says he'll get his chance soon enough. We have 5 of our foes captured and in prison. We hold the edge, a big edge. I figure they'll gamble on one desperate all out attack probably as soon as the storm breaks. Cap says they basically gonna have a guarantee of victory. Reed is like, he hopes no one falls short, and he says, Cap, if you don't mind, you can see he's sulking. I love the screen tones again. And Cap says, go ahead and go and relax. The Hulk and the Hulk and I will take turns standing watch. So, all right. And so as Reed walks, Spider-Man, what would you say, follows him. Spider-Man can tell he's depressed, doesn't blame him. He's like, this kind of weather isn't is conducive for that. And he's going to gonna go around and investigate this place here and sees this big room here. So inside, of course, are the X-Men. And Spidey is thinking here, these are thought balloons here. The X-Men have stacked out their own private little headquarters. Rather antisocial of them. Boy, is it still weird seeing Professor Xavier not in a wheelchair. Whatever they're yakking about is none of my business. So before they notice me, I'll just be on my way. And so Professor X says, we must take matters into our own hands. We don't belong here. And Rogue says, I'll once tussle with the Avengers. They don't like me a bit. And they're powerful, suspicious of what I'm doing here with you all. And Wolverine says, Rogue is an X-Men now. Anybody gives her a hard time, I'll slice them to ribbon. Now, Wolverine's attitude during this time had changed a little bit, but Shooter, who's writing this, is still writing him as he was a little bit more toward the past. But man, Mike Zeck draws a beautiful Wolverine. Speaking of Mike Zeck and Wolverine, I have a Captain America playlist, and Captain America Annual 8 was drawn by Mike Zeck. That's one where Captain America and Wolverine tussle. So check that out if you so wish. Anyway, Professor X says, control yourself, Wolverine. The last thing we need before we leave is an incident. And Colossus says, must it ever be so that normal men, even those not so normal, fear and hate us because we're mutants? And Storm says, let them. But then let them also be aware we will bear no oppression. And Professor X says, enough, this discussion is ended. Prepare yourselves, we go join Magneto. Wait, I sense an eavesdropper. Spider-Man. And he jumps in. Yeah, I heard what you guys were saying. And he kind of pushes them. And I don't like it. And I'm going to rat on you, he says. So, and so, come here, punk. Settle down and listen, or I'll hurt you. And then you'll listen. He missed, and he gets Colossus instead. And so, basically, he kind of beats the X-Men. Essentially, that's what he does. So, to me, this was, of course, my first introduction to the X-Men. This issue was the first. So, I was like, these guys aren't much, because the way Captain America dispatches them. So, I wonder how Chris Claremont felt about this scene here. So Shooter makes the X-Men look like frigging wusses. So here goes Captain America. He's gonna go talk to Reed and tell him, he's like, what's wrong? Listen to me. We've got to. And then he goes, forget it. I forgot what it was. I guess it couldn't have been too important. And Cyclops says, what was that all about, Reed? And she says, I'm not sure. And of course, Professor X changed his mind. So he made Spider-Man forget. So this is I thought this was creepy, but it turns out he had never really done that before. But Claremont had started a change on Professor Xavier after he got his legs back. So he basically says he recovered and um, basically made Spider-Man forget. So now Cyclops and um, Mr. Fantastic are gonna have a little chat. Reed is kind of concerned about Peter. It's like, I can't believe he already cracked under pressure. And Cyclops also tells him, that he's thinking about his wife. Cyclops was newly married during this. And all of a sudden, you get the Professor X speaking to him on his mind. Cyclops, return at once. He's just a jerk, so. And Cyclops like, it wasn't necessary to fry my brains with your telepathic summons, Professor. I'm coming. He says, excuse me. And so Cyclops makes a note here. Professor X hasn't asserted himself like this for years. He's acting like he did back when he first formed the X-Men. Firm, authoritative, decisive. Now that he is no longer confined to a wheelchair, I wonder if he plans to lead us into battle. If he does, will his lack of experience in the front line combat bring us to disaster? So, all right. So they secured this this ship here. Professor X says it was constructed by a race of telepaths, so that he's gonna be able to use his powers here. He says they're gonna leave at once, even if it's still raining, to Magneto's fortress. So at that moment, Magneto was talking with Doctor Doom here. He says, "I'm not interested in an alliance." And Doctor Doom says, "Very well then, Magneto, but be warned, if you do not serve me, I must consider you an enemy." And he says, "I choose to make my own way, Doom. So be it. Know you then that your choice is irrevocable, and you will live to regret it." So he goes back and he goes, "Where did you go? Was something wrong?" He says, "It was nothing, Janet. Nothing at all." I feel like he should have told her. That may have helped earlier. I mean, I understand that the writer is, it's gonna be part of the story, but as you're writing this, you're like, well, if you tell her, then you know, then the story changes. So, all right, here we go. He goes again, "Nothing at all. I do like the shadows on Magneto here. Well, I'm glad you're back. It's eerie here alone. The way the storm is shaking this place. You miss me. Now that is encouraging." And Magneto says, "Why not? Have we not reached the beginning of an understanding?" "The beginnings, maybe," she says. "We agree then that when my eyes meet yours, there is something electric." And she says, "I don't remember agreeing to that." And this is coming out of nowhere. This little infatuation with the Wasp. I don't know what the point of it really truly was, but it is true, is it not? And she's like, "Hey," so he kind of forces himself on her. "The storm has granted us a brief interlude of peace. Here, on this world of sudden death, let us not deny our desires." She's like, "No, no, no. There's so little time, Janet. Oh, I suppose why not? You have the iciest blue eyes I've ever seen, Magnus." And I guess the eyes have it, she says. So, all right. So now we're going back to Doctor Doom here. And he's walking toward these two women. Remember, Battle World was a mishmash of different sections. So these were two women that just happened to be around here. And Doctor Doom is like, "Magneto's foolish refusal to pledge himself to my service is disappointing but not surprising. With power such as his at my command, and victory would come swiftly. Denied his power, it is even more imperative that I take other steps to strengthen my forces," he says. So he is going to basically give powers to these two women that were there. So kind of remember, this one here is like super skinny, super scrawny, and then this one is kind of like more normal, heavy set. So he does his thing, and he ends up creating two new people here. So, um, he this is Titania. So this is her first appearance here. Um, and of course, she's from that She-Hulk show. But her and the Absorbing Man have will have like a relationship here. So, and this Volcana maybe, and so he gives her, of course, powers to melt things, like kind of like the Human Torch, and then of course she's got super strength. So, and here you can see that she uses her power, and then here goes Titania and picks it up. So and throws it out. So they definitely have a strength, these two. And so he's gonna introduce everybody here to Volcana and Titania. Volcana, I don't think much was done with her. I know that with Titania they did more because with the Absorbing Man and stuff. So and so he introduces everybody. Of course, here's Ultron, the Wrecker, Dr. Octopus, the Absorbing Man, and the Molecule Man. And broads. So the Wrecker says, "Where did they come from? I thought we was the only ones on the planet except for Captain America's Jerk Squad." And Absorbing Man says, "Who knows? I wouldn't put it past Doomsday to build brats from scratch." And Doctor Doom says, "Octopus, Ultron, go at once to the 417th level hangar deck and prepare assault vehicles. The storm will break at dawn. Then we strike." And she goes, "Hey, Absorbing Man, you look like the toughest man here. Get up." And he says, "What you got in mind?" He says, "I'm going to do anything I want to you. Everything I always wanted to do to everybody who used to be bigger and stronger than me. Maybe I'll just play with you, or maybe I'll make you eat dirt, or maybe." And he says, "Woman, if you got something to prove it tomorrow against the guys we're fighting." And he says, "You're backing down?" "Nope, I just ain't getting up. I got nothing to prove to a dame." So, and this guy here is, "Hey, miss, if you want to lip wrestle, I'm game. I'll show you tomorrow." And then they kind of laugh. So, and so Molecule Man. Notice how everybody has green and purple. I don't know how that became such a thing. The Wasp has green and purple. Molecule Man, the Wrecker, the Hulk. So Molecule Man says, "Boy, I hate that. I hate all that crashing around. I just can't stand violence." And Volcano says, "Really? You, the infamous Molecule Man? I've always wanted to meet you. You're different than I expected." "Yeah, I know. Shorter, right?" "No, more sensitive, I guess." "Hey, you're turning human." "Yeah, I just figured out how to do that." So you think I'm the sensitive type, huh? My therapist says that too. I've been seeing a therapist ever since the Avengers talked me out of destroying the Earth. So Molecule Man actually is quite powerful. So part of what, and feel free to check out the Marvel fan site that I have linked in the bottom. The Molecule Man is an interesting character. He is super powerful, practically a god in how much power he has. But he is not, because he suffers from mental, like, he anxiety and all that kind of stuff. He doesn't use his powers. Like, if he was, say, Doctor Doom, or it'd be over. But it was really cool that they created a character and gave him all this power, but his own humanity, his own, like, it works against him, so he doesn't ever end up using it. Here you can see, I don't think my therapist would approve of him or this word, talking about Doctor Doom. So he's, like she says, very sensitive here. And so now Thor is um walking through the villains here. These are three from the Wrecking Crew and Kang, and then he's going toward the Enchantress, and he sets her free and says, "Awake, sorceress, and let us speak. Thor, have you come to gloat at my humiliation? A goddess battered down to lie. He says, unmarred, Vain One. Reed Richards saw to that. This machine has healed your injuries. Why have you come hither? Did your mortal friends forsake you? Nay, but they are mortal. There are things of which only gods may speak, and which only gods can understand. You and I are the only two immortals of Asgard in this world. We must talk. And she says, very well, but elsewhere I will endure this dungeon no more. Aye. But here erstwhile you are still my prisoners. Perhaps. Come, Thunder God, she says. So there is a story, a fill-in story in Thor that'll kind of go through some of the stuff that they talked about. So I haven't covered that yet, but we'll eventually get to it. It's after Simonson's run. So, all right. You can see here, Hulk. He goes, I don't understand. I rack my brains and all I get is a headache. The idea is the answer used to come so easily. What's wrong with me? Have I just hit a dry spell? I'm so disoriented. But of course, being put here in this mess by a being beyond anyone's comprehension couldn't be helping my concentration. That must be it. It must be. He's kind of losing his thing. And so Captain America wakes up here and goes, what? It's dawn. The storm has broken. Hulk, why don't you wake me? Now is when they're most likely to attack. Sound the alarm. Get everyone to battle stations. Hurry, man. All right, I just didn't notice. And he's like thinking, don't raise your voice at me, you star-spangled tin tire, and I'll rip you in half. So there they go. Here come the villains. And kaboom. And off they go. And so he gives everybody an order, but not the Molecule Man. He asks, what about me? And Doom says, yours is the most important role, Mr. Reese. You must remain at my side, vigilant. And he says, you got it. And of course, the Fantastic Four, or the Fantastic Three at this time, Reed, we're under attack, flame on. And so, boom, or kerwham here, as it throws them here and knocks off Reed and the Thing here. And Human Torch says, my arm is broken, ribs too. And so he's using his arm to try and stop her here. And they went through the floor here. And She-Hulk's like, wonder what that noise was. And here comes Volcana and uses her power on her. And then makes that land on her. And she's like, so much for She-Hulk. And so Captain Marvel was taking a shower. But luckily, or a bath, sorry. Dr. Octopus let her get dressed before he knocked her. And then here comes Hawkeye. And he uses part of the floor to block from the arrow. So you can see here he kind of grabs a piece so that when he throws the arrows. And Spider-Man goes, all right, man, we've got trouble. I'm coming as soon as I get my armor on. But back then he had to put on his armor. Now it's just super quick and all that kind of stuff. But back then the armor wasn't. And so Ultron. And so finally here comes the Hulk. And the Molecule Man, of course, is protecting Dr. Doom here. And he's throwing all these rocks at him. Captain America says, Hulk, fall back. We've got to gather the others, consolidate, retreat to a defensible position. Come on. All right, I'm coming, as he grabs. And so they free everybody here. And Molecule Man goes, I can't believe I drove Hulk away. And so, look, here come the others. And we have no casualties. And Dr. Doom says, we also have fewer kills than I'd hope. But no matter, we have accomplished much today. And to finish it, we shall level this place so that no stone remains on stone. Next issue, hopeless. Or situation, hopeless. So, all right, Secret Wars number 3 from 1984. Jim Shooter, Mike Zeck, and John Beaty. Like and subscribe. I do thank you for listening. Goodbye.